the other is, and we got an illustration of it there, was bike change, because what they're tending to do, rather than, because a wheel change takes that much longer in a puncture situation with disc brakes than it does with regular old caliper brakes, then what they're tending to do is actually just change the bikes. So that's an awful lot more, so many more bikes that need to be taken, a lot more logistics around the whole situation for bike changes. And you know, I think the jury's still out on whether it's you know, not just a little bit more of a headache than they need.
I mean, the problem for me on that is that most of the team car roof racks hold 7 or 9 bikes. Generally, they hold 4 on the sides, ready to use, and the rest are in the middle without the front wheels in. So there's going to be 4 lucky riders that have got their bikes ready to go and can get a wheel change fairly quickly, and there's going to be, depending on how many riders in the race, another 2, 5, however many, whose bike won't be ready and they'll have to wait for a front wheel to be put in it anyway.
Yeah, well, I guess they'll change wheels in the bike that's on the top. And
yeah, but then the problem comes in a race like this. There's 1 team car per team. Okay, you get to the Grand Tours or to the monuments and the big World Tour races, and yes, there's 2, there's 3 team cars. But in a race like this, where there's only 1 team car, you can only carry 9 spare bikes. So what happens if your rider punctures twice? Which in 200 kilometres is not unheard of. So there's an awful lot of connotations that have to be taken into account. And the one thing we haven't mentioned, of course, is, and it's the big concern of Alex Dowsett, who rides for Movistar, is the heat generated by a disc brake. He's concerned about the fact that if you have a crash, a scalding hot disc brake is going to burn through you very quickly. Having spoken to quite a few engineers that work for some of the big bike manufacturers, their concern is the heat that is generated by the disc brake then moving outwards and going into the forks, and how is that going to affect the forks, because the disc runs very, very close to the forks.
Yeah.
And there is a concern there when that heat dissipates.
You would hope that the UCI would maybe look at least coming up with a standard diameter for the disc. It's super technical stuff we're getting into here, but it is a hot topic, if you'll pardon the pun. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out now in the next...
I think they're there in terms of 140mm diameter, but Campagnolo have only today announced their disc brake system.
Campag are in, and we're in as well in Nokere Koerse. We're going to get another break out of the... Well, the breakaway still tapping out a rhythm, but there must be a certain level of concern from Florian Seneschal and his breakaway companions. The young man from Koerse, just getting the nutrition in. Making a bit of a name for himself is the 22-year-old. He certainly enjoys the Northern Classics racing, and he's had some solid results of late. Decided to go on the breakaway today, probably because he feels that he doesn't quite have the sprint finish that seems to be what is required to get the victory in Nokere Koerse. It more often than not ends up in a bunch sprint, albeit up that cobble climb at the finish, so it's a real strong man's finish.
Looking at the results over the last 10 years, it has been a strong man's finish, hasn't it? We can go back. Jeremy Hunt was in the top 3 in this race in 2006. Ben Swift's been up there, Gert Stegmans, and of course Chris Bokermans, who has finished 2nd and 1st. But it's always been a strong man's finish, and Scott Thwaites finished 3rd last year. Boy Van Poppel's been up there. Graham Brown's been top 3 and won it before. And of course Nasser Bouhanni, who won a couple of stages in Paris-Nice last week.
So the 7 riders in Nokere Koerse working hard to maintain their advantage. Maximum of 2.5 minutes for them. Took a long time for the breakaway to establish, well over 30 kilometers before these 7 riders managed to make their way up the road. And now it's down to 1 minute and 21 seconds for Tom de Vriend of Wanty Gobert. Florian Seneschal from Cofidis is in there. David Boucher, the old man of the group, 36 years of age tomorrow, is the man from Krelan. Brian Van Godden from Rompot is there on the left in orange and white. 3rd man, 4th man down. Kenny de Ketele for Top Sport Vlaanderen is our final man in the line here, 30-year-old from Belgium. Pete Williams, as we've been corrected and it's been pointed out to us, is the man for One Pro Cycling. Well done to Pete for making his way into the group and just about to take his place on the front of the group. 147 on the left-hand side of the road, the pale blue and the dark grey colours. And Kevin Ista is the final member of that 7-rider group for Wallonie Bruxelles, the 27-year-old Belgian. Pick out his colours, they're yellow and red. Very distinctive. His teammates, naturally enough, are not under any obligation to chase this one down, so they have taken position, nestled nicely into the middle of the group. So the work being done on the front of the peloton now by the Russian Gazprom squad, those distinctive blue colours, and Vinny Fantini are also making their presence felt at the front. They've got 1 or 2 different sprint options. It'll be interesting to see whether an Italian could perhaps scoop this one.
So draw your attention to the time at the top of the screen, 1 minute 16 now. That group has come down in the last 10 kilometres by 1 minute. So that time has come down very quickly indeed. And worth saying that this being a 1-point HC race, the World Tour teams don't have to come here. It's not a compulsory race. That's why there's some big teams missing. We've not got Astana here, for example. We've not got Trek Factory Racing or Trek Segafredo. So that's why some of these Pro Conti teams have got a chance to show themselves today. The break, I think that gap is now tumbling. The bunch want them back into at least something more manageable with 50 kilometres to go, if not back altogether. So tight, twisty roads, as you can see here. Belgium racing tends to, this is a feature of Belgium racing where the roads can twist very quickly, and if you're not certainly near the front in the peloton when there's an incident or a crash or the pressure can be put on, you can miss out very quickly indeed.
Great to have so many of you along with us for the ride this afternoon in Nokere, Koerse. And you can join us on Twitter at DQ Sport for myself, at agibby76 for the man alongside, and it's hashtag Home of Cycling. Just scrolling through a few of those. And where was one that Cycling Mad says, where's Philip Duignan? I heard he was riding. No, he's not on the Sky list today. I think they'll be setting up for Andy Fenn perhaps. They've got a slightly pared down group of Zandio, Andy Fenn, as I said, Christian Knaes is there, Moscon, Alex Peters, and Danny Van Poppel making his return to racing. He's got up in this race before, but this is his first day of racing, I think, this year. He's had knee issues, and it's going to be a little bit of a stretch, I think, to expect that he'll be there at the back end. But he is one of the sprinters in this race with the most outstanding palmares, so you never know. You never know. Don't rule it out at this point, but he certainly doesn't expect it. At Gazapud says changing a disc is no longer than a caliper, suggesting that it doesn't take as long or any longer to change a disc wheel than a caliper wheel. I think with the those new through axles, they are pretty quick, but I don't think it's quite as quick yet as these mechanics are capable of doing.
I think also it's the adjustment of getting it in straight. It's much easier to get a normal wheel in between the centre of the caliper and away you go. And to have a disc brake rubbing, it's much, I know this doesn't sound right, it's much easier to get a disc brake to rub than it is a normal brake, because once it's in, there's no adjustment there, there's no movement, you can't move anything around, you can't change anything. And I know a very good friend of mine called Russ Maher, who is working now for Factor, or will be soon working for Factor Bikes, who are the sponsors of One Pro Cycling. He's very keen on discs, and we'll come back to that in a minute.
So another lap completed. It's David Boucher that takes the points this lap around and adds a few more euros to his account and puts him into. We don't have full details on exactly how this competition is going, but you can be sure the riders know. And Boucher will know better than most. 36 years of age, as I said, tomorrow. So he's looking forward to an early birthday present. He's not of a mind to continue with that, purely just to take the points. And now the bunch within a minute and coming down into the village, already hitting the cobbles. This breakaway group is not going to last to the line. Interesting decisions are going to have to be made, because the other continental squads that haven't made it into this move are very mindful to get involved in the action long before this thing winds up for finishing sprint. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now in the next 10 kilometres or so.
Bunch is strung out there, isn't it? Apart from this front sort of 40 riders, it's in one long line behind them. We saw them coming into into the town. It was really strung out, so pressure's on. 57 seconds now for the break. I think that's going to come down very, very quickly indeed, and then we will have one bunch all back together fighting out the last 50k of this. And we don't want to hark on about it too much, but disc brakes do seem to be the standard conversation at the moment. So confirmation that the rotors are 160 millimeters front and rear. And you might say, well, why has that got to be the same for all the teams? Why has it got to be standardised? Well, in the same way a wheel has to be standardised, you'd like to think you can get a wheel from your team car or a bike from your team car. But if you do have to go to a neutral service vehicle, the last thing you want to do is get a 140mm rotor when you're on 160.
That might be an issue.
Because you won't be stopping. And you certainly won't be going anywhere if you get 160 when you're on 140, because it just won't go in. So yeah, they needed to standardise that, and they've done that at 160 millimeters. Although the Campag pictures that were released earlier today were shown with 140 millimeter rotors, so that's a bit of a bone of contention for the Campag Nodo teams. But don't forget, you know, there's the big, we'll say the big three. I suppose you've got the big two historically of Shimano and Campag Nodo. SRAM have now come to the game pretty big, whilst there's a split in the bunch here, and the break is down to 42 seconds already.
And that is the rider from Western, Japanese national
Kabuki
road race champion.
I think it's Kabuki.
Yeah, it's all done for him.
Yep.
For today, unfortunately, it's not to be his day, but no doubt he's done what he can to help out Pier Paolo De Negri, Felossi, and Grossu, another rider who could do a job for them at the back end of this, as the World Tour squads tried to make their presence felt towards the front of the peloton. So another lap complete, and we're out into the back roads on this circuit, this finishing circuit at the Nokere Koerse Danalit Classic in Flanders in Belgium. We're just in the district of Krooshouten, on the edge of the Flemish Ardennes, just on the border with West Flanders.
So that break really not being given much leeway with 56 kilometers to go. It's come down to 37 seconds. There's a split in the bunch. I'm not entirely sure that will stay there. I think they should come back together, but it just goes to show how much damage that, we'll say small climb, because we've looked at it and said, well, it's only 400 meters long and it only goes up by 58 meters, I think it is, but it does a hell of a lot of damage, doesn't it?
Again and again and again. So once you go up at once, it's no problem. Twice,
yeah,
well, it's probably no problem at all. 5, 6, 7. Suddenly, that 8th time up, it's really going to be tough. And it's only the very, very strongest men that are going to be able to do a job here. Is the bunch a little bit of a stall at the front, as you might expect, as riders look around to see where their teammates are, and that'll knit back up. But those riders that have had that little extra chase, well, whatever they've had to go into deficit to get back on, and of course they were probably in a little bit of trouble to begin with, so it's all a bit of a worry for any of those riders at this point.
This motorway bridge here that you can just see the riders just coming back down off the back of it. Although we look at the profile of this race, and apart from the finish climb, it's absolutely pan flat, and the descent off the other side of the finish climb, obviously, it's all these little small ups and downs. Okay, maybe not so much in Belgium, but I was saying to you earlier, Declan, before we came on air, and on a race profile, you look at the bits that aren't categorised climbs, because you tend to forget about them, and they're the bits that do the damage for the rest of the day, just going up and down all day, especially if you're riding somewhere like Normandy or you know, the Sachsen Tour in Germany. It's just those ups and downs all day that do the damage. We've got a rider here from, is this from Fortuno Vital Concept, trying to go away?
One of the Gazproms, I think might be one of the Team Joker riders that is trying to get involved there, and shaking it up a little bit. They're starting to shake the snow globe a little bit, because they want to see what's possible in this Nokere Koerse Classic. Trying to get up the road, splitting the bunch once more. This is going to get busy, there's no doubt about it. Well, just over half a minute now to those 7 riders up front. And at Road Race Viewer on Twitter, into at DQ Sport, hashtag home of cycling. So setting my stall early, Scott Thwaites, 3rd last year, really flying this season, and that's his call for victory this afternoon. And that's not a bad shout, is it? Because Scott Thwaites is in fine form. So a wonderful performance where he went head-to-head with Nicky Terpstra in Le Samyn just a couple of weeks ago. And the man from Yorkshire is absolutely on stunning form, and no doubt that Bora Argon will be trying to organise something for him a little bit later on. Kevin van Heck is the Belgian national road race champion, and he'll be trying to do a job with Topsport Vlaanderen, trying to place his riders into decent position, as Topsport Vlaanderen are now looking to get involved in things. So the gap, the advantage has actually gone up a little bit after that little flurry of activity. Gazprom settled back onto the front of the peloton. It's stretched again, and this will be, I think this is a critical juncture really. This break is either coming back now, or they're going to put manners on the bunch and say, no, we actually we're happy with this one, and it'll stretch back out again. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the next 5 or 10 kilometers, whether that breakaway group, which is working hard, looks like it's staying steady. Are they happy with this breakaway group? They're maintaining their advantage of just over half a minute. With just under 52 kilometers remaining, the bunch becomes a little bit more compact, spreads wide across the road as they fly over the motorway traffic. And bike racing heads off in one direction, and industry and commerce heads off in another. Jackets are coming off. Don't even have to wear them today. Is Française de Jeu, Sebastian Chabanel. Chabanel is comfortable about his situation as the brakes go on in a big way on the front of the peloton. This is only to the advantage of those 7 riders out front. They continue to tap out a rhythm that'll keep them out front. So just coming down to the final 50 kilometers of Nokere Koerse Danelith Classic for 2016, the 71st edition of this venerable classic race. First run back in 1944. And those 7 riders out front, their advantage has stretched ever so slightly again in the last few moments. A suggestion perhaps that they're content to be left out there. Johanni Huderovic, who the Fortuneo Vital Concept squad will be eager to try and get into position later on. He's just going back to the car to take his jacket off, and plenty of other riders taking that opportunity too, and that can only mean that that 38-second advantage is set to stretch in a big way in the next few minutes. Yeah,
that's going out very quickly, isn't it? You can see, looking at the bunch there, they've had a flurry of activity to bring it down to something more manageable than 2 minutes with 50 kilometers of racing left. And you can see now the gilets are coming off, the domestiques are being sent back to the team car with everybody else's gilets and gloves and all the rest of it. Last drinks and gels being taken on board, and
it's all skin suits these days, isn't it?
Well, yeah, aero suits as opposed to skin suits. They're a different material actually. They're a different material to a skin suit. If you rode in a skin suit for 200 kilometers, you know about it, because you certainly be sweaty by the end of the day. But fortunate enough to have a sort of a tutorial in modern day clothing by our clothing supplier, Pro Sport Distribution, and a friend of mine, Gianluca Capello, who took us through all of the different materials that they use for the clothing, which fundamentally looks the same, but you certainly wouldn't want to be riding in a skin suit for 200 kilometers. So the new aero suits, as you can see, even if they're not the aero suits and they're just a jersey and shorts, the jerseys these days much more body hugging, and usually 2 pockets in the back, so you can carry your food, not the traditional 3. And that lump you can see there in the back of most of the riders, that will be their race radio. Yeah, they have radios at this level this year. They've come back at this European Tour level, as it looks like there's a few shapes being thrown in the bunch once more. Gazprom setting a tempo on the front just a little while ago. Now one of their riders just trying his luck off the front. He's well clad against the elements, such as they are today. One Pro Cycling marking that quite closely. One Pro Cycling really making a name for themselves. Would that be a Bosky by any chance? We'll get confirmation very shortly. They have, of course, have a man in the breakaway groups. There's no question of
chasing it down from the front of the bunch, but if a group goes away, why not try and infiltrate it? And well, it's definitely not, you know, settled and organised in the way that World Tour teams would prefer, is it?
No, it's an odd one, isn't it? Because it's a sort of under the radar race to a degree. It's certainly growing in stature, but it's not as prominent as some of the races that we've got coming up. We've got a mixture of World Tour teams and Pro Conti teams, and some of the World Tour teams, the quality is certainly questionable, and some of them have sent such skeleton squads. I think Sky have got 6 riders in a possible 9, Tinkoff 7 riders in a possible 9, and BMC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of a possible 9. So you know, the Pro Tour squad certainly will look to step up and get something out of this.
Well, that green goal for me suggests, sounds like it might be a stage for Jay McCarthy today. Interesting suggestion. The Tinkoff team is one that Tony Gibb agrees with.
It's one of my picks for today, Jay McCarthy, in amongst others. But it's one of those races that is going to be something of a lottery, isn't it? You know, we sat in the office before we come on air trying to work out who was going to be up there, and although we've probably nominated 15 riders, you just never know what's going to happen at the end of a race like this. It's not like a stage race where it's controlled by one team and then they hand over by the sprinters teams. It is going to be a bit of a fight at the end.
And
sometimes quite messy.
Sometimes some of the leading lights from the World Tour squads might be of a mind to help some of their domestiques on a day like this. It might be an opportunity for some of the lesser lights to have their opportunity to shine. Payback, exactly, for all the work they do during the year. Not that this isn't a very important race and an interesting, well, it would be a great addition to any riders, Paul Morris. There are European Tour points on offer as well, of course, and a decent, healthy prize fund. So this is it's a race win worth having. It's a 1HC or category level race these days for the first time this year, and it will be interesting to see whether that changes the attitude and ambition of some of the World Tour squads in years to come.
€7,500 I think it is for the win today. Total prize fund of just under €19,000. But it's interesting when you look at it how quickly that prize fund drops away. I think once you get out of the top 3, it's less than €1,000 for, you know, and then once you get down 10 to 20, I think everyone's on the same prize money. And I think from memory it was about 190 euros. Yeah. So yeah. You'll answer this. Why is it euro and not euros? 190 euro?
Well, either I think is acceptable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, euro or euros. Yeah, either is acceptable. David Boucher's the hard man in this group, isn't he? 36 years of age. He's the only one in short sleeves. He said, look at the sunshine. This is gorgeous weather. This is as good as it gets. So I'm going to make the most of it and try and top up my tan this afternoon. And he's done a little bit more than that. He's made a great name for himself. He's shown the jersey well. So it's good news for Krellan Vascud Service Continental team that they have a rider up the road. And a good sprinter behind as well in the shape of Gary Droitz, who they'll be hoping to put into position later on. And of course their riders haven't had any responsibility in chasing this one down. It's coming down inside half a minute now. That last drag up just on their way into Kreuztaudem just meant that the gap came down inside half a minute, and I think they've got to be on borrowed time at this stage.
Yeah, and I think going back to something you just said, Declan, if people are watching road racing for the first time, we've got a lot of viewers for the World Track Championships, and maybe you haven't seen a road race before, you might be watching this and thinking, well, that breakaway group did have 2 minutes, it's now got 30 seconds, why are they carry on, why are they trying to stay out there, when it's, as you said, I think it's, there's no shadow of a doubt that that group is going to get caught. It's a foregone conclusion. But what they're trying to do, this is a televised race. Eurosport are televising it in, I don't know exactly how many countries, but a lot. So what they're trying to do is stay out the front, because all the time out there out the front, the TV cameras are on their team's jersey.
Oh, problems.
Chain off.
I always think it'd be so much easier to go around the other side of the bike to put your chain on, but so many people do that, don't they? And it's just it's a reflex instinct. And
well, you can, if you're that side, you can lean the bike up against you and give yourself both hands to rip the rear mech off in anger.
Yeah. There's a couple of views of it, but chain off, just locked solid, I think, did it?
Yeah, I think it's wrapped around the rear cassette somehow. He's got it going now, but the mechanics, I think that's the mechanic there, a little bit too late maybe, but still in the cars. So as we were saying, you know, that group's going to get caught without a shadow of a doubt. But as you can see, there's 7 riders there, and the TV cameras are focusing in on them, on their jerseys, and getting exposure for the team and their sponsors. But you can see there, you look at the bunch, it's spread across the road. That is a sure sign that the bunch are taking it easy, shall we say.
You've competing tensions, haven't you? Because the World Tour teams, the leading squads, you know, to whom the smaller teams will be looking at to do a lot of the chasing, well, they're happy to leave that group out front. Whereas some of the lesser lights, some of the smaller teams really want to get up the road to show the jersey, trying to mix it up a little bit. If you haven't got a sprint opportunity, then you want to get up the road. So there are competing tactical tensions here as Boucher sets the tempo on the front of the breakaway group, and they extend their advantage once more, just over half a minute ahead of the baying pack behind. The 7 riders hang on. Florian Seneschal, resplendent in the red colours of Cofidis, is the French rider in the breakaway group, and would be very keen. See, could he do a job? Little handshake and exchange of pleasantries.
Well, I think that was more a come on, why are you skipping your turn? We all need to be working here. So if someone does just drop the wheel, it's very easy to put your hand out to let them take a little bit of a sling off of you, to encourage them to go through and do their work. And you can see here Pete Williams just sees he's got a little bit of a gap off the front, so tries to exploit that, because if he went away, if he got a bit of a gap, that might discourage some of these other riders in this break to stop working. They might go back to the bunch, and then Pete might be out on his own getting some exposure for One Pro Cycling for you know, 5 or 10 kilometres. But I do think that's about all this bunch have got left, 10 kilometres at the most, and the bunch will bring them back very quickly. And going back to what you were saying earlier, Declan, it is a case of, you know, do we bring this back? Because once this comes back, it's then all going to kick off with everybody else attacking. Whereas at the moment, no one's really going to try and get across to it, because that will just encourage it to come back sooner. So we can see here one rider again just going up the road, and the rest not chasing him down. Well, so it's a balancing act, isn't it?
I'm curious as to whether Kevin Ista had perhaps done a little bit of a deal to try and take the Prem at the end of this lap, as they come to the conclusion of this lap. Just be a couple of laps left after this. We find David Boucher on the front. He's the man that gave that gentle little hand sling to Kevin Ista, rolls off the front of the group and finds himself with a little bit of an advantage heading into the last couple of 100 metres. But are they going to chase him down? It's a curious little one, that one, and it could be that after all the work they've done, I think they're probably going to share out the Breams and share out the points on offer here, as Kevin Ista just about hangs on and manages to be first across the line with 3 laps remaining of this 14.8 kilometre circuit. And look how close behind the bunch are, less than 400 metres at this point. And it's a little bit of a pared down bunch at this point as well. 182 riders signed on. There's quite a bit less than 180 riders in there now.
That noise you can hear, normally when a bike race comes past you, you can hear the whoosh of the air coming past you. That noise you can hear is the rattling of carbon fibre and chains and equipment going over the cobbles. They're certainly taking a bit of a beating, and it's only 400 metres, but do it 10 times, that's 4 kilometres.
Yeah, that's tough on a bike. It's tough on a bike rider. It really does make the joints ache a little bit, and they'll feel it tomorrow, you can be sure about that. Edix Quickstep now starting to make an appearance on the front of the peloton. They've been conspicuous by their absence, and it'll be interesting to see who they fancy propelling into towards glory this afternoon. Ilio Koerse has been was put into their lineup for this race, and of course Hansam race on Friday, which is coming up in a couple of days' time. Pretty much these squads will be riding Hansam as well on Friday. Riders just
Lamertink there at the back. He's I think his day is done.
Yeah, Lamertink, one would have expected that this young man, 22 years of age, top under 23 rider from the Netherlands, and the team Lotto NL Jumbo, who have one of the top favourites for this race, Dylan Groenewegen. That's why they've been doing so much work so far today.
So you can see now the pace is certainly on in the bunch again. It's spread out, these 3 riders. Got a little bit of daylight, but that's going to come back quite quickly. but as you can see from the head-on picture we had a minute ago, and you will see when the bunch come into view here, it is one long line. Look at that, the pressure's certainly on there.
Yeah, you can be sure that there's nobody getting an easy ride in there at the moment. A few riders trying to make their way up the right-hand side, pretty much everyone just sitting in the line and waiting for this surge of pace to disappear. Slow motion gives an indication of just how much pain is being meted out and how much suffering is going on for the likes of Brian van Goghem of Team Rompot in the orange there, just taking a swig from his bidon, perhaps aware that his days are numbered. Another turn again from David Boucher on the front, seems to be in good form, and Ethics have decided to kick things off. We're into the final now, no doubt about it, Tony.
Very much so, just over 40 kilometres to go. Ethics really deciding to kick it off. Wouldn't surprise me if one or two riders in this front group try for a last little grasp of glory and getting away on their own, but we've got a rider here from Joker trying to go up the road. Can't see the number at the moment, but one of the Pro Conti squads that are going to try and get some exposure today.
And the Norwegian team have been very, very active indeed. They do not want this to come down to a bunch sprint if they can possibly avoid it. That tends to be the pattern over the years. This does end up in a mad charge up that final cobbled climb. So we'll watch out to see, can anyone prevent that from happening? Will a little group manage to clip away in the next 40 kilometres? We're not much more than 26 miles of racing remaining in the Nokere Koerse Danelith Classic for 2016. And now the big teams starting to mass at the front. And now the tactical considerations are coming into play. BMC also trying to get involved, and they've come with a trimmed down squad as well. They've got a good sprinter in the shape of Rick Szabo. But I think they also feel that they've not really got the firepower to control the sprint, so maybe trying to put a rider up the road might be the way to go.
So this little climb here over this this motorway bridge.
Yeah, actually, the Coldu motorway flyover.
Well, you say that, you joke about that. I actually wore the King of the Mountains jersey once in the Olympia Tour of Holland. And I got it by virtue of the fact of getting third in the prologue, and only lost it on about the third last day because there was a motorway bridge King of the Mountains climb, and Phil West, who's watching this from One Pro Cycling, was on that race with me.
Well, that is a famous day in the history of cycling. Tony Gibb wearing climber's jersey for 3 days in a row.
Steady.
Steady well, steady well. So now the breakaway group has been called to account. They're back in the fold. It's been a great effort. Boucher still ploughs on regardless on the front. And those riders been out front since kilometre 30 of this 200 kilometre bike race. So that's about 130 kilometres of racing with their noses in the wind. So well done to them. Congratulations for their effort, and they've earned extra cake at dinner this evening. They presumably will head towards the back and watch the racing kicking off. Van Goghem wants to get involved just as the break is retained. He wants to be last man standing. He fancies the most spirited rider award, or whatever they're going to be calling it at this race. And Boucher doesn't like that, does he? He's been out there all day. He's done so much of the work late on, certainly. He doesn't want to see Van Goghem get a little bit of extra glory, so he's killing himself to get across to this group. And great to see that he's just got a little bit of extra breakfast there. He's still got the energy to get involved for how much longer, one asks. But back at the back, Gazprom calling for service. Just as it's getting busy, that's Solomek of the Gazprom squad.
So probably just under an hour's worth of racing left. It's a fairly flat course around here, with the exception of the one climb and the motorway bridge that we just saw. So these riders now coming back into the fold, and we certainly will see the fireworks about to kick off. I think that's Scott Thwaites at the front there.
while Scottwaite wants to get involved in the racing, as you might expect. Bora Argan certainly be trying to set something up for the man from Yorkshire, who's on such a rich seam of form. But is this the place to be at the front? Is that actually Scott? Not 100% sure. But Bora Argan certainly will try and put manners on this group. But we're going to see lots of attacking now. The break have come back. To be honest, that's what we really wanted. From an entertainment standpoint, we're going to see fireworks now for the next little while. And it's going to be a very, very arduous task for the World Tour squads to really control this and set it up for a sprint. Yeah, very much so. There's going to be a lot of attacks and a lot of tactics that you don't really understand, but that will be because certain teams want certain things to play out and other riders want certain things to happen. So a little bit of status quo at the moment with 39 kilometres to go, and might just see a couple of spills as well, because there'll be attacks, it will come back together, changes of directions, riders not really concentrating because they might be a little bit tired, a bunching up like we've got here, so everything's all together, and virtually the brakes are going on. So when this happens at the front and that transcends down to the back, there's always the chance of a rider touching a wheel. It's a super course for racing, actually. I mean, looking at it, I mean, we're in East Flanders here, and yet there's not a wild amount of road furniture, is there, for the riders to contend with? No, not at all. It's very rural out here, and what you will see as well is riders taking every opportunity to move up, and in some races in Belgium and Holland, they take to the pavement, and that causes all sorts of problems with road furniture, as Declan said, being lampposts, benches, signs, or whatever it is. Over here there's not a pavement at the moment, so they've got the full width of the road to try and play with, as we see one of the riders from CCC Sprandi Polkowitz trying to attack. CCC squad looking to get involved in a big way. Is that the big figure of Koerse? I think it could well be. Adrian Koerse is a very strong rider in his own right. Strings out the bunch, but doesn't manage to extricate himself from the peloton just yet. But all those little efforts will be costing some of the riders in the group. Will it be taking the energy and taking the legs away from the sprinters? Well, that's a little bit of an ask, I think. So one to point out to you, in 4th place or 5th place in the bunch there at the moment, in the white with the blue and black detail on it, blue and black leg warmers, that's actually the Stolting Service Group team, which I with all due respect, very much doubt many of you have actually heard of, but believe it or not, they've got Gerard Cholek riding for them. So I think it was 3 years ago that Cholek was winning Milan San Remo, and I don't think that's actually him there, but they won Milan San Remo when he was riding for what was then MTN Quebecer. Now has become Dimension Data and changed as a team fundamentally, but no space in that team for Cholek this year, so he's had to move across to, with all due respect, a smaller team in the guise of a Stolting Service Group. You see one of their riders at the back there just getting some food as we speak. Stolting team is registered in Germany. And they've also got Rasmus Gulthammer on their books, and in there today. He's a big engine, could do a job later on for Zielek. Stolting team will be thinking, we'll go back into the pack and see if they can come up with a better idea. 37 kilometers remaining in Nokere Koerse. All hotting up now. All kicking off in a big way now in the final 35 kilometers of Nokere Koerse Danelith Classic. Heading off up the road, Martin Mortensen to join Loic Chetou of the Cofidis squad. That's the red of Cofidis on the front, the Frenchman. Mortensen from Denmark, riding with the British registered One Pro Cycling. And these two riders have been given a little bit of rope. They've been given an opportunity to stretch their legs and see what they're made of, because the peloton is spread wide across the road as Team Sky tries to move up on the right-hand side. A couple of riders, and indeed another one from Team Joker has to slip back in from the grass verge and just find some room in the bunch, as if there was any room there at all. It's compact in a big way. It's not easy to move up at the moment, and the pace has been hectic. Now it looks as if things have settled down and eased up in a big way, but the pace has been pretty hard because plenty of riders have only just managed to make their way back in. That's Litar from Topsport Vlaanderen. Looks like he's hit some mechanical issues, a rear wheel puncture. So the two bearded riders on the front have this little advantage. Inside 35 kilometers remaining in Nokere Koerse Deinze Classic. Two riders have managed to stretch their way clear of the peloton. Peloton spread wide across the road, and happy to let them have their head and see what they can manage to do, as Martin Mortensen of One Pro Cycling dispenses with that jacket. He's going for it in a big way. He doesn't need that jacket, doesn't need the clothing. He's not thinking about anything except going for the win in this fabled, venerable Belgian semi-classic. Mortensen for the British registered One Pro Cycling team, joined by Loic Chetou in this attack out front. The man from Koerse kicked it off. Mortensen jogged across as best he could up this drag, hauling a big gear, and now we see the teams from the World Tour, the big and this is going to happen. When you stretch the peloton wide like that, that's exactly what's going to happen, and that's not an ideal situation.
No, that was going to happen in this sort of situation where the brake went away, everybody parked up, and you can see there you just lose concentration for a sec, out the saddles, touch of wheels, straight over the handlebars he goes, and ends up in a fairly unfortunate situation there with his head caught between someone's top tube and bottle cages. You don't see that very often, but people say disc brakes aren't going to be a problem.
Well, we're getting to see the colours of the Stulting service group, not perhaps in the way that Gerald Ciolek and his teammates would have expected. Looks like well, he's not in great shape at all at the moment, is he? And that is Rasmus Guldhammer. And also coming to grief on that occasion, Rainer Hunig in that little touch of wheels at the back of the peloton. Unbeknownst to these two riders out front, there have been a little bit of shenanigans in the bunch. They're not worried about that. They've got this 20-second advantage that they carry into the village of Kreuztautem. Bunch splits through this one rare piece of road furniture. That is pretty safe course for the riders. 20 seconds isn't a lot at the moment, and it could be that the World Tour squads will be happy with this. Bora Aragon starting to make their presence felt at the front of the peloton. That's something we've been anticipating. This is a team that has yet to win this race, but certainly could come up with a big result, because Bora Aragon, the German team, have on their roster this afternoon Phil Bauhaus and Scott Thwaites, both of those riders to the fore, and in the well, what, second and third across the line 12 months ago. So Bora Aragon really want this one in a big way. Just to let you know, of course, that the winner of this race 12 months ago, Chris Buckmans of the Lotto Soudal squad, not present. Of course, he's coming back to racing, and he's racing for the first time this weekend on Friday. So it's great to have him back in the peloton at the Hansam. He had that horrific crash in the Vuelta a España at the end of last year and was in a coma, an induced coma, for quite a while, and it was a bit touch and go, I think, for Chris Buckmans for a while. But it's absolutely great to see that he's come back to full health. He's been able to ride his bike, and not only that, he's going to make a return to pro racing. So congratulations to Chris Buckmans, and we wish him the very best. Not in a position to defend his title at this race, but he'll look forward to the Hansam with renewed vigour and joy. His teammates, meanwhile, going to see what they can do about setting things up for a potential sprint finish. Tosh van der Sande, I think, could be the man that they're looking at to help. And Sean de Bie might fancy his chances of getting up the road at some stage as well.
So with 30 kilometres to go, really trying to put the hurt on here at Lotto Soudal. No longer Lotto Fix-All in the blue jerseys that they sported last week, but back to Lotto Soudal. And going very well. Got a couple of injuries in the team at the moment, which means their classics campaign is slightly dented. I know Andre Greipel is out with a niggle, and Greg Henderson very frustrated to be left at home at the moment with an injury as well. So he's not yet competing this year, but very strong team, one of the World Tour teams that will be looking to get a result here. And you can see here rider number 51, Zandio from Team Sky, struggling, so that's a bit of a shocker.
Yeah, that looked more dropped than going back to the car, didn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. So these two riders, it hasn't worked out for them on this occasion, but Chetu and Mortensen have at least tried their luck and gone up the road in this semi-classic, which isn't familiar to all of you, of course. At Robertson7073 on Twitter to hashtag Home of Cycling is saying, new race for me. Where in East Flanders is this race? It's well, just on the edge of the Flemish Ardennes, on the border with West Flanders. It's in the district of Koerse, small village really, to be honest, but the Nokere village has played its part in the Nokere Berg, which is that cobbled climb up to the finish line that the riders will have completed on 10 occasions by the time they get to the finish line. That has played its part, made regular appearances in the Tour of Flanders in recent years, 4 times since 2003. Also makes regular appearances in Kuurne, Brussels Kuurne and Dwars Doors Vlaanderen and various other races. So they like their bike racing in this part of the world. No surprise there. $30K to go.
Very early to be putting this much pressure on at the front of the bunch, and can only imagine that there's a lot of splits further back down, and yet it's in one long line on this thin country road, and Zandio's got himself back onto the back of the bunch, but still this is not the place to be on roads like this. There's virtually no chance to move up, and rider on the front there we can see Zach Dempster riding for Bora Argon. Applied his trade in the UK for a number of years for various different teams. Very tall, rangy rider, and not an out-and-out sprinter, but probably, you know, from 250, 300 metres out can certainly hold his own.
If it was left up to him, he could do a really solid job for them. He'd be capable, I think, of coming up with a result. But he could get the win, be another another question.
I would say, you know, if he's in the right position coming into the running, he could probably hold on for a top 20. Top 10 at a push, but certainly not their rider for today. I'm guessing Scott Waits has got the ride for today.
Well, look at this. There's a completely different dynamic in the bunch as they head up the climb this lap round. 2 laps remaining. 2 laps of 14.8 kilometers in total as they take another little look at the finish line, and it's the big teams that are starting to gravitate towards the front, starting to think about the finish and how they're going to organize it for their sprinters, exactly what side of the road they're going to go on and how they're going to try and move things around. Team Sky look to get on the front to do what they can, as plenty of other riders think about survival, or perhaps even heading back to the
bus.
Team bus. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, for some riders this will just be one of those races that they're using to get form. You know, they'll be getting off with 2 laps to go, as we can see now. A lot of riders dropping to the back and split at the front here.
Splitting on the climb every lap, isn't it? So, I mean, if there was any sort of connective will to try and get up the road, well, something could possibly happen. Ethics are starting to get involved in everything that happens at the top of the climb each lap round. You suspect that they're not really in a position to set something up for a sprinter, or at least they're not super confident that that's worth doing. So it'll be, if any team, I think, that is going to try and animate things at the back end, it's likely to be Ethics Quickstep. 3 riders with just that narrow advantage now, just under 30K to go. And riders just starting to make their way across that little gap that developed across the finish line last lap round. And it's the serious teams that are starting to mass towards the front.
So that's Gianni Moscon at the front there for Team Sky. And I thought it was Danny Van Poppel, but it's not. It's Gianni Moscon. I was lucky enough to be invited out to Team Sky's training camp in Mallorca a couple of weeks ago. And Dave Brailsford, Fran Miller and the team looked after me and a friend of mine, Mark Dransfield, very well. We were made very welcome and had a great weekend in the sun, very much like today actually. It was nice and warm, and I know there's been snow in Mallorca at this time of year before. It was lovely, but here we can see the riders from Team Sky hitting the front of this break, which, considering they've only got 6 riders here, chapeau to them for getting involved. But it's all going to come back together fairly soon, with 20 kilometres to go, 28 kilometres to go, sorry.
Well, it looks like Tinkoff trying to complete that job of getting across the gap. Monty Group Gobert showing the colours from the front. That is the Krella and Vascud service. team, and as I said earlier, Gerrit Droitz is a good sprinter for them, and none of these riders are letting up. They may well know that they're back together again, but they'll just keep the hammer down in a big way and make it as difficult as possible for any rider to make their way up in the group for as long as possible. And that's going to be causing plenty of pain and suffering at the back of the group. Clearly Etix and Sky minded to get involved. Lotto Soudal thinking about closing things down. And now another attack on the right-hand side of the road, and Etix all over that one again. So it's Top Sport Vlaanderen.
Yeah, so Top Sport Vlaanderen and the Wanty Group Gabert team, they are two of the biggest teams in Belgium, and although they're not World Tour, they certainly can mix it with the World Tour boys. So these riders will be given a lot of respect by Etix and by Lotto Soudal and Lotto NL Jumbo. You know, they won't look at them and think, well, he's only riding for a Pro Conti team, we can let him go. They'll look at them and think, these guys could step up to our level very easily, so we need to marshal their moves. And you can see now riders on the left jumping up on the pavement, just trying to move up and get that extra little advantage.
It's getting a little bit busy up there, and it's pretty hectic down the back as well. There's riders here who are just thinking about, well, why are they involved in bicycle racing? I think one or two of them. Just how much longer can they hang on? Will it be, is it worth it? And that's, I think, just at the back there was Dylan Page, the Team Roth. Swiss squad hasn't been able to make much of an impact on the race so far.
One of the Romport riders coming to the front there, complete with his disc brakes on his road bike, as we were discussing earlier. And I think you can just see Scott Thwaites just in the background, behind that Lotto Soudal rider, just starting to come to the front with 26 kilometres to go.
Krellan Vascuit Service Continental squad once more involved in anything that moves. Tinkoff Saxo, bit of a thin down roster coming to this race, but they've still got plenty of firepower. Got at least 3 riders who are capable of producing a sprint at the top of this hill. They're not letting anything get away at the moment. Popping one rider across. And it's the British registered Team One Pro Cycling that are on the front of the peloton, inside 24 kilometres remaining in Nokere, Koerse for 2016. As yet another attack comes on the right-hand side of the road from the Norwegian team, Team Joker, as the better-known squads try and take a little bit of a breather back in the peloton. The distinctive Belgian national champions colours of Preben van Heck are nestling nicely in there for Top Sport Vlaanderen. What will he be thinking about late on? Who's he going to try and set up? Meanwhile, Team Joker, well, have a little look around and realise that, well, that one hasn't produced any benefit whatsoever. And for all that it looks as if they're spread wide across the road because there's a bit of a stall on, I think it's more about a headwind here, because any rider that attempts to get clear of the peloton, it's just almost impossible in these conditions. Not particularly windy today, but it's so wide open. This part of Belgium, this part of Europe, well, they don't really believe in hedges, do they? Fields are about 27 acres big, yeah. So it's just blows, whips across those flatlands and catches those riders a midriff, and it's just so impossible to get clear.
And you can see here that the teams that know what they're doing at this stage, or that are, their plan is to set it up for a sprint at the end for one of their nominated riders, you can see them getting together. You can see 3 or 4 riders massing near the front, not on the front, but near the front. We saw Top Sport Vlaanderen, and you can see Wanty Group Gabert over on the left, and then some of the other teams that haven't got that discipline. CCC here going off the front with one rider just behind them from the Delco Marseille Provence KTM squad. They will try and get away and disrupt things if they're not confident in their sprinter. But this is where you've got to be so alert, because the riders at the front switching from one side of the road to the other, the bunch, you know, they can't do that. They're all massed on this fairly relatively narrow road. And there you go, just as we were speaking, there's a crash down at the back of the bunch. One of the Jumbo guys touched a wheel, went to the left, and the rider from Joker is on the floor. So that's where are we?
Looks like Borgensen, yeah. Rider Bolden Borgensen is probably one of the riders in there that has most facility in this northern European Classics racing, but well, not on that occasion, just falling foul of that little touch of wheels in the middle of the bunch, and that could well put paid to his chances. He'll do well to get back in, as frenetic as the pace is out front at the moment. First sign we've seen of any of the jerseys from Delco Marseille Provence. That's the second rider along CCC Sprandi Polkowice in the orange. That's the Polish registered team. Very distinctive, and Wanty Group Gobert. So for Tuneo Vital Concept, they've got Johanny Hudorovic, who can do a job for them in the sprint later on, but nothing is being allowed to get any rope. It really is just proving so difficult for these riders to get clear. It's not for the want of trying.
No one's going away at the moment. It's all very closely marked, and as I said, the riders massing near the front of the bunch in their colours. You can see them. I think it was the Walloon Brussels team in the red and yellow there on the front, trying to mark everything at the moment, and you can see their other riders dotted around near the front of the bunch, just behind in the camera view. So two riders here with 20.5 kilometres to go, just edging their way away, with one rider going across to it. So it'll be interesting to see if they make some progress, and there's a little bit of a hiatus in the attacks. The climb, for your information, is on 14.8 kilometres to go.
Sean Deby, one of the heroes of the Lotto Soudal squad, looks like he's hit a bit of an issue, and this is not an ideal situation. Doesn't seem to be any panic there for him though, so I suspect that was a mechanical, or maybe he got caught up in that crash a little earlier. Nothing getting clear at the moment. 20 kilometres remaining in Nokere Koerse Danelith Classic for 2016. The 71st edition of this venerable Belgian semi-classic, and the early breakaway group of 7 riders called to account. They have been retained, well, about 10 or 15 kilometres ago. Looks like it's set fair for a bunch sprint, but that's not if some of the lower ranked continental squads have anything to do about it. Speaking of which, the One Pro cycling team making a name for itself in international racing over the last few weeks. Managed to put a couple of riders into lead groups, or groups well up the road in Lusamin, with Janto Barker doing a great ride on that occasion. And Janto's not on duty for One Pro today, but indeed is Christian House. The likes of Chris Opie, Marcin Biabowski and Pete Williams, as we saw in the breakaway early on, are doing sterling work for One Pro Cycling this afternoon.
So One Pro have actually got 2 fast guys here today in the form of Chris Opie and Matt Goss. So if it comes down to a gallop, expect to see one of those two, their protected riders, and I should imagine the other one is the last lead-out rider to take them to about 150 metres to go on this course, because that nasty cobbled climb at the finish. And we've got another crash here.
They're coming thick and fast at this point.
This is a big one.
A lot of riders have gone down there, and 1 or 2 serious names as well. Frederick Friesen is not going to be in a situation. At least 2 Lotto Soudals have gone down right in the middle of the bunch.
That was nasty.
Yeah, that was a tricky one.
But we said, didn't we, that this was probably going to happen. There's a lot of nervous riders here. There's a lot of riders that want to try and make a name for themselves and get something out of this race. And you only need a slight touch of wheels. Schwartzman there from Bora Argonne gone down. And the amount of time that these riders are on the floor for, or sorting themselves out, they're not going to get back in with what we 17 kilometres to go about that.
That's massive disappointment for Lotto Soudal. They need as much firepower as they possibly can get. Gert Dox also coming to grief. A Lotto Soudal man. And riders from Roubaix. Just trying to pick out, looks like Friesen, yes, we picked him out a little few moments ago, and he's probably he's the last one to get up, isn't he? So that's definitely a bit of a sore one there for Friesen and Gert Dox.
Yeah, so that's 2 riders held up for Lotto Soudal. Also Creeder there on the floor from Rompot as well. So that's taken a good 15 riders out of this break, because they will have got delayed significantly. So with 17k to go, I can't see them getting back on.
There's a Wallonie Brussels rider, not a Roubaix rider, of course, Wallonie Brussels. And Creeder. Well, Michael Creeder, of course, is a pretty fast man. So too Raymond Creeder. It's just this lone raider from BMC. As I said, they've got a bit of a pared down roster. They've got Rick Zabel, and Alan Piper is on DS duty for them, a man who would absolutely have loved this kind of racing. That's what he was born to do. And Alan Piper will have put a rocket up them this morning and said to Rick Zabel, well, you've been around this level of racing now for a few years. This could be a good opportunity to come up with a big result and really kickstart your career. Loris Geerts has been quite prominent in the last few weeks as well. He's been up the road in several one-day races, so he's got good form.
The team will be on a high as well after the weekend, won't they, with Greg Van Avermaet bringing home the win in Tirreno.
It's all good, and they're not finished yet, of course. There's a classic first of the monuments this year, Milan Sanremo La Primavera, coming up on Saturday, and we'll have it here for you live on Eurosport as always. Home of cycling. First classic of the year, and plenty of these riders will be showing an interest in what's happening at that. They would aspire to being in that race 12 months from now, and here's a wonderful opportunity for them to showcase their ability, come up with a big result to add to their palmares. So Eddings Quick Step, Lotto Jumbo, Top Sport Vlaanderen, the bigger squads appearing at the front. Tinkoff Saxo there, sitting 6th in line in the yellow jerseys, distinctive Dayglow yellow jerseys, trying to set something up for going to be Jay McCarthy. Mikael Kolar is capable of big sprint for them, and Eric Baska as well, top under 23 rider who's won bunch sprints at that level. So they've got a small squad, but very fast squad. Certainly one lined up for a sprint finish.
No one team really being dominant at the front at the moment. We've got the Belgian powerhouses. Ethics got 2 riders there, Lotto with 1. Top Sport Vlaanderen, who, as we said earlier, although they're a Pro Conti squad, they could easily step up to World Tour level. It's just, I would have said, it's just a case of budget for them. They're a very strong, very well-drilled team. We've got a split here, which was probably caused by that crash. I guess we've got 20 riders trying to get back on. They wouldn't have been the riders that crashed. They would have been those that just got held up by it and were able to weave their way around it.
Well, they've got less than a kilometre before they hit the penultimate ascent of the Nokere berg, and that's not an ideal situation for them, really, because you can be sure they're not exactly going to meander at...
No, that's why they're going as fast as they are now, because they're trying to stretch this bunch out, keep their protected riders in a good position going up this climb. It's not just that it's a climb, it's that it's cobbles as well, so you can get all sorts of problems. So this is why it's going as hard as it is now for this climb in about 50 metres time.
Great to have so many of you with us this afternoon on hashtag Home of Cycling. Trevor Mould says this is hotting up nicely, and Neil Kerr was heading over until he hurt his knee. He says this is a great race for spectators. It certainly is. It'd be great to be there in person, but if you can't be, here on Eurosport, you're seeing some excellent Belgian classic bike racing. They take the bell, they power up the hill, they're heading towards 14.8 kilometers of savage bike racing in Belgium. Who's going to emerge at the top of this hill at 1 lap left? Well, your guess is as good as anyone's at the moment, because there are still lots and lots of riders in contention.
Pick a number at this stage, lots of riders in contention. It hasn't really split just yet up the climb, but this is the nasty bit just over the top of the climb that keeps dragging on. This is where the damage can get done. But again, 2 Lotto NL Jumbo riders at the front, 1 Ethics Quick Step, 1 Top Sport Vlaanderen, and nobody else really taking control of the front. And the pace has come out of it, and we will see the attack starting to come thick and fast any second now.
The bunch is lined out as they race through Flanders with just under 1 lap remaining of the 8 laps that conclude the Nokere Koerse Danelith Classic. Top Sport Vlaanderen and the Lotto Jumbo squad on the front of the bunch, trying to keep things as fast as possible, trying to prevent any late excitement and late energy from some of the continental squads. Who's it going to be at the end of this lap? Those riders, well, it's not going to happen for you this afternoon. You'll get a finish, but you're not going to be involved in the final shake-up. And that's disappointment for them. But still, Well, there's a huge amount of riders that are involved and a few little cracks developing in that peloton. Finally, there's a little bit of a stall at the front, and they get a little bit of respite. Is that Yuri Sagan from the Tinkoff Saxo squad that looks to infiltrate this next attack that comes from Preben van Hek. Belgian national road race champion knows that he hasn't got a sprint, but wants to get involved in this race, wants to see what he can manage.
So as we were saying, Topsport Vlaanderen, that's Preben van Hek who rides for them. He's the Belgian national road race champion, so took on the likes of Philippe Gilbert and various other World Tour riders and managed to win that title. So there's plenty of quality in that squad. We've got about 10 riders here just trying to scrape their way off the front, but not going anywhere.
No, nothing happening there because all the teams alive to the danger. And just as I say, a little bit of a crack in the peloton. Is there a belief, is there a willingness to persevere with this as other riders are coming across? Bora Arg on the red helmet, the black colours. They're trying to set something up for Scott Thwaites. Phil Bauhaus perhaps might be asked to do a job for them in sprinting up the final hill as well. But Scott Thwaites, with the form that he's got, who would bet against him? De Boist of Lotto Soudal looks around to see what sort of damage he's done. Well, you've done enough to stretch things clear and give your teammates a little bit of a free ride for the next couple of kilometers or so. Van Hek realizes he's missed a trick. I think he was settling back into the bunch and then suddenly realized that they'd let a gap go. So he's racing across to this, powering along, showing the sort of power that made him the Belgian national road race champion, and doing a solid job for Topsport Vlaanderen in the process.
Spending a lot of energy to get across to this move, so he obviously thinks this has got some legs, but it's only 30 metres off the front. He's just about got there, but I think that was a lot of effort to get across to this move when I'm not entirely sure it's going to go with 12 kilometres to go, but no one has yet taken full control on the front of the bunch, and this is, I think, the pattern we're going to see. There's so many teams up for the end of this one-day race, and it's not a controlled sort of stage race, so no one team has anything to gain by keeping a jersey in it. But we can see Lotto NL Jumbo just there with 2 riders on the front there, but I think this is going to be a messy one.
It certainly is. Coming down to the final 12 kilometres, we've got 3 riders clear. Another rider from the Veren Classic, another one of those Belgian continental squads. They've got Jonathan Brain, who can do a job for them in the sprint, perhaps Justin Jules as well, but well, that didn't work out. He didn't make it across. Those 3 riders still dangling off the front. You'd say things nice and controlled for the leading squads, but for Preben van Hek, well, it's just sustained savagery. And we said there's not much road furniture here, but what there is, well, makes it a little bit tricky for the riders by times. Yeah,
I mean, we saw in a couple of classics last year, didn't we, with riders colliding with spectators and injuries being picked up. It just takes one spectator to step forward at an inopportune moment with a rider taking to the pavement, and really can be messy. But look at how this bunch has slimmed itself down with 10.9 kilometres to go. There was virtually a full bunch up until a couple of kilometres to go, and now we're down to, guessing, just about 80 or 90 riders.
It's thinning out a little bit in that bunch, but there's still a hell of a lot of riders with genuine belief that they can do a job. 4 riders clear, but just dangling off the front of the bunch. Nothing is being held back at this stage. We've got Lotto Soudal, we've got Topsport Vlaanderen, 1T Group Gobert, and the Norwegian Joker team are in there. But look at Lotto NL Jumbo. They light the blue touch paper and then fire across this gap, and they have started to kick things off. 10 kilometres remaining, and now the lead-outs have begun.
They must have some faith in Groenewegen to be doing that much work to bring this group back. They really must be putting the trust in him for today, and here we go. 10k to go at the end of the Nokere Koerse Danilf Classic.
So that was a good done there by the team Lotto NL Jumbo to tie things up, but inevitably the stall that follows immediately leads to another attack. That's Peter Jacobs that is just about managed to extricate himself from the bunch, and now he's probably looking around thinking, well, why did I do that? Because he needs some help, and he needs it quick if they're to have any chance. Peter Jacobs from Krelan Vascourt Service Continental Squad, Belgian rider, racing in Belgium and into a pretty much a block headwind, according to the wind indicated by those flags fluttering on the left-hand side of our picture.
Nasty concrete road surface there with a great big line down the middle of it. No one's going to appreciate that. That you know, means there's a big section of this road that the riders aren't going to want to ride on in the middle. You don't want to get your tyre caught in that. And concrete roads, they're just hard, they're just draggy, they don't flow, you know. And you can see how this bunch has trimmed down so quickly over the last 5 kilometres.
Yeah, there's only a certain amount of riders in there with genuine belief at this moment. One of them is from Nippo Vinifantini. It's Daniele Colli, who has joined this attack with Peter Jacobs, and great to see the Nippo Vinifantini squad who've journeyed from Italy and haven't come here just to make up the numbers. They want to get involved, and they've been certainly animated in their efforts, but there's a visual representation of what amounts to not much of a lead at all. And riders still trying to drag their way back on to see can they do something for their teammates. Maybe just one last shot at it, get up the front and maybe provide a little bit of shelter, do one turn, as Lotto Soudal trying to get up here once more. Is this De Boist? I think it could well be.
No, Docks,
no,
I think it is.
Yeah, it's Sean de Bie, actually, is it?
I think it's Gert Docks, riding number 4.
Well, we wait for full confirmation. Either way, it's Lotto Soudal. And Lotto Soudal, I think, showing that they're not minded to try and set up a sprint for Tosh van der Sande. They're all about trying to get up the road and make it tougher for Team Lotto NL Jumbo. So they're thinking that the best form of defence is attack, and they're trying to get up the road and put it up to the other teams.
Looks that way at the moment, or it might just be, you know, if we throw this out here and get someone up the road, we don't have to do the work for the next couple of kilometres. Less than, well, 8.1 kilometres to go now, soon to be 8 kilometres to go. So what are we down to, sort of 10, 11 minutes of racing, not long to go at all.
8k means around about 5 miles in old money. They're rolling along at the back of the bunch, but it seems easy, but it's not easy to get off the front into a headwind. And Cofidis looking to get involved as well. The French Cofidis squad, similar colours to Lotto Soudal, but it's a plain red. Tall, rangy figure there as we wait for full confirmation. 4 riders with, what, 15, 20 seconds? Well, that could make things a little bit interesting, couldn't it? Because none of the teams behind just want to pull the trigger on their final lead out at this stage. And putting manners on this bunch, but it hasn't been the work of a moment, has it? The size of the teams that have arrived at this race mean that it's not quite as easy to control as you might see in a World Tour race. No,
it's not, and the quality of some of those teams as well is a little bit questionable. So as we've said all along, the pro Conti teams will be looking to get something out of that. 2 of those teams are in here as well. So there you've got Van Billesen from Belgium, De Bie from Belgium, Jacobs from Belgium, and Colli from Italy. So Belgium obviously very strongly represented in this group, but although they're just eking off the front at the moment, I don't think they're going to get away. And you were right, actually, Declan, it is Sean De Bie from Lotto Soudal in this front group.
Well, it's not so long since we saw him off the back and what looked like some sort of mechanical issue, but Sean De Bie comfortably back into the bunch, right to the front, and decides to get involved in this little bit of late surge. And the fact, well, his presence and his pedigree, I think, are going to make the other teams sit up and take notice. Not as if they wouldn't anyway, with such a... Oh, and there's another crash at the back. A little touch of wheels. Doesn't look like anyone came to serious grief, but not an ideal situation. That's Sam Williams. Yep. Early on, had to get a bike change, got back in. We thought he was in the break. It was his namesake, Peter Williams, that was there. And he might well make it back into the bunch because he doesn't look as if he was too badly delayed there. Good ride by Sam Williams again today to be in the shake-up at the back end of Nokere Koerse Danelip Classic. Just over 6k remaining. Looks relatively comfortable for Sean De Bie. He's managing to maintain form. Kenny Van Bilsen on his wheel, just fighting to get back in there. And the other 2 squads as well. That's good service. And Wallonie Brussels.
Well, if they keep this going for another 2k with this gap, this could be slightly dangerous. But the riders in the group with Sean De Bie aren't really helping him too much, are they? They're giving him a turn, but I don't think they've certainly got the strength in their legs that he has. And we can see front of the bunch there, bottom of your pitch, you could just see Lotto NL Jumbo. Still see them now with 4 riders over to the right of your picture, to the left of the bunch in the distance, in the form that it's travelling. So they're definitely trying to get something out of this race.
Well, they're all pulling faces. I don't think any of them are doing it on purpose. Sean DeBee seems to be comfortably the strongest rider. He's comfortably the smallest rider in there, but look at those thighs. They're capable of producing incredible power. And now you have Lotto NL Jumbo, those yellow helmets, white jerseys, on the left-hand side of the bunch. The right-hand side, as we look at it, just starting to get organised on the front. They'll be satisfied, I think, with the gap as it stands. Just over 5 kilometres remaining in Nokere Koerse Deinze Classic for 2016. It's Lotto NL Jumbo on the left-hand side of the bunch in the yellow colours. Team Sky to their immediate right, and all the other squads just trying to organise their lead-outs. Français de Jeu have a couple of riders in there as well. As we look at this group of 4 riders up front, the third man in line here, Sean DeBee, seems to be the strongest of the 4, as Kenny Van Bilsen has a little look over his shoulder in the red of Cofidis, and manages to nod and shake his head all the way to the front of the group. And those 2 riders seem to be the strongest. So
we can see Sky almost right next to Lotto NL Jumbo. They're amassing 4 riders at the front. Could also see Bora Argon in their black and red on the left-hand side of your picture, massing as well. So this really is going to come down to it.
Edix Quickstep inevitably put a rider across the gap. It's Wisniewski, Łukasz Wisniewski, the Polish rider, making it 5 in front, inside 5 kilometres to go. Wisniewski has an immediate, goes immediately to the front as well. He might, and Van Bilsen's not able to hold the wheel, and this will be a little bit of frustration, I think, for Sean DeBee, as it's all up for those riders. Wisniewski is going solo.
So Wisniewski just pushing away off the front here, the 4 that were trying to get away. We saw that Coley from Nippo wasn't doing any work, sitting on the back at the end, but Wisniewski's opened up a big gap very quickly there with 4.5 kilometres to go, but that's still a long way.
While the 4 other breakaway riders have been, well, I think that would have taken the wind out of their sails a little bit, saying Wisniewski just fly past them. They're hanging on with it dangling off the front, but it's pretty much all done for them. Wisniewski, is he going to be the final attacker before the bunch sprint? Will he manage to race solo into Nokere and up the Nokere Berg, or will it be the anticipated sprint finish that looks as if it's coming up very shortly? Wisniewski will do well to hold them off. They're a little bit blurry in the background, but they're not that far away at all as the teams start to try and figure things out. On the right-hand side of picture is the blue helmets, the dark blue colours of Team Sky. And Team Sky have Andy Fenn, remember, who's capable of a very fast finish on a good day.
Veranda Willems, I think it is, or is it Wanty Group Gobert just massing just behind there? I think it's Veranda Willems massing with the majority of riders on the front here. Now this is a nasty little corner here. There's an island in the middle of the road, so some of the riders go the other way around the island, but keep your eyes just there. It could get a little bit messy. All the riders cleanly through there. So here we go. This will be the run in now to the climb.
Well, it's not going to work out for Wisniewski on this stage. What a great effort by Veranda's Willems cycling team, the local lower-ranked continental team from Belgium. They've got Timothy Dupont, and Idis Kruopus is in great form as well. Won a race just a week ago. Either of those could perhaps do a job, but it's strung out in a big way.
Bottom of your screen there, you can just see a couple more Bora Argon riders moving up. A couple Sky riders going backwards there, and I don't think that's Andy Fenn there in 4th place for Sky.
So who's it going to be? 3 kilometres remaining in the Nokere Koerse. We're heading towards a bunch finish as they race up that cobbled climb. They've been up it 9 times already, but it's the 10th time up that really counts. And 2 riders on the front, 4. Veranda's Willems doing a solid job, and a couple of teammates just behind that lone interloper from Team Sky. And Sky's
There's
still
Andy
trying to...
Fenn.
Yeah, here comes Andy Fenn trying to make his way up, and he's going solo in doing it. He hasn't got anyone to help him.
Right-hand side of your picture in about 8th place now. Andy Fenn just moved up on his own. So 2.6, 2.5 kilometres to go. Veranda Willems still got this very much under control at the front. They've got help from 1 Sky rider. Can't make out who it is from here. But here comes Wanty Group Gobert. So
Monty Group Gobert up on the outside in that lighter blue with the white patch across their chest, those white helmets. Monty Group Gobert have opportunities. Kenny DeHaas, former winner of this race just 2 years ago, is in their roster this afternoon. Andy Fenn did a superb job to make it into that position there, but will he be able to maintain that position? How much is it taken out of him? And now we see the teams moving on the other side of the road. The red helmets, black colours, that's Bora Argonne trying to set something up for Scott Thwaites from Yorkshire. Just outside them, Team Cofidis from France. They've got options. They've got Ryan Bouhanni, but Michael Van Steen might be a better option for them. Another Belgian rider with the French outfit.
So we saw there Zach Dempster certainly getting his elbow out into one of the Monty Group Gobert riders, and there was a nasty little incident back there in the bunch where someone was pushed out to the left-hand side and decided to have a bit of a thump at one of the other riders. But Bora Argonne there with 3 riders at the front. Zach Dempster having to get his elbows out to try and maintain position, and Scott Thwaites will be just behind him.
Thwaites is in there. I just about managed to pick him out. 1,400 metres remaining, a little bit less than a mile. Conspicuous by their absence so far, Team Lotto NL Jumbo. They're in the white and yellow colours, quite a bit further back the bunch. They've got Dylan Groenewegen, who might have been many people's hot favourite for victory this afternoon. He's been sprinting well of late, but he's not in there at the moment. Bora Argonne are going to have the honour of carrying the field and taking the peloton into the final kilometre.
Not sure they've got the numbers though. This guy on the front has done a lot of work. He's going to ping off fairly soon. I don't think they're going to be able to carry it all the way with Zach Dempster. He's not going to be able to deliver Scott Thwaites as fast as he needs to be delivered, so might have to look for another wheel here. He's got still 800 metres to go.
Well, and there's plenty of teams up there and a lot of riders flying solo here as well. It's a lot of freelancing sprinters in there. Look at the way it's been strung out by that fantastic effort by Bora Argonne in the last few metres. But what will they have when they hit the last 400 metres? This is all about this final sprint up the cobbles that they're about to hit very, very shortly, well inside the final kilometre. Now we come to the cobbles. Now the lead-out men pull off and leave it to their sprinters. Who's going to have it? And it looks as if Sky could be in a good position as we see Groenewegen trying to make his way up on the left-hand side. Groenewegen, number 43, finds himself in position on the right-hand side. Andy Fenn going on the left for Team Sky, and they're spread wide across the road. Verandas Willems also involved there. Monty Group Gobert up the hill and go across the line. Oh, and it's too close to call as Monty Group Gobert and Verandas Willems had riders in contention. What a fantastic finish, and by a wheel. Nobody wants to pick it out. Nobody's sure whether they've got it or not.
Dupont, I think that was Timothy Dupont.
Timothy Dupont has been in fine sprinting form of late. He's ready to claim it. Verandas Willems, they believe that they've got it. Timothy Dupont of Belgium makes another Belgian winner in Nokere Koerse Danalit Classic, subject to confirmation from the finishing photograph. You can be sure that there's going to be that. So this one was for one of the lower ranked teams, no doubt about it. It's a victory for Verandas Willems, and what a fantastic win for them.
What a fantastic win for them, and you could see coming up that finish straight how tired everybody was and how much that climb took out. Not creeping, but you could see they were just dying after that last corner. It was a fight for that last corner, and riders were just going backwards very quickly indeed. We saw a rider from Sky light it up. That wasn't Andy Fenn. Andy Fenn was trying to run it afterwards, and he didn't manage to get there. We saw Scott Thwaites be left on his own by virtue of the fact he didn't have enough teammates, and here we go. There's your overhead replay. We can see most of the World Tour team struggling here, and we can see the 2 riders at the front from Verandas Willems just takes the win there.
Yeah, Groenewegen got up for 3rd, but he just left it too late, just coming from so far back, and that was never the ideal way to do it.
Scott
was it
DeHaas there in 10th, I guess.
And great to see the lower ranked squads getting the victory. Verandas Willems cycling team, well, they will celebrate long and hard about this one. That is a massive, massive win for that team. And what does that mean? And they put riders on the front. They were involved in pretty much everything. They played every single card they had. And I don't think there's a single rider in there that didn't make a big effort this afternoon. And they managed to bring many, many riders to the line, which was a superb effort from them. So Timothy DuPont gets the victory in Nokere Koerse Classic. This is the unofficial confirmation. Christopher Halvorsen is being indicated as the second rider across the line. Groenewegen third, Huderovic getting up, Michael Krader, as we said, sprinting well. Gary Droitz, Moscon was the Sky rider, doing that solid job. Grosu, De Haas et al. Wow, what a great finish and a great victory for Verandus Willems. Wow, that was the epic finish that we expected. Wonderful sprint up the hill on the Nokereberg. And superb win for Timothy DuPont, just about edging out the Norwegian squad on this occasion.
So you can see here at this stage there's 3 Sky riders up there and they didn't get anyone in the top 10. So from this last little corner, really a lot of riders did die on this climb. See Scott Thwaites there at the moment, he's struggling to get the power out. You can see the back wheels dancing over the cobbles, and there's your winner. Just holds on. I mean, it's a cliche to say if it was another 5 metres he wouldn't have won it, because it wasn't another 5 metres, but he really was getting chased down on the line there, wasn't he? By
fantastic timing,
by the Joker rider, yeah, the Joker rider in the blue just on his left there, and the camera focused right, and it was those two. The Joker rider's almost losing his power meter or Garmin or whatever it is on the front of his bike there, is hanging off.
Well, I can tell you, Christopher Halvorsen, not a lot is known about him, the Team Joker rider, but he's only 19 years of age. He's got a big future, hasn't he?
Because you tipped him, didn't you? You tipped him for this race, so yeah, he's not done badly at all by getting second in this company. It just goes to show how serious the bigger Pro Conti teams were taking this, because they can take it to the World Tour riders and make a name for themselves going forwards. It's your house.
Yeah, we're just having an extension done at the moment.
It's too small for the 3 of you.
Well, it's beautiful scenery around here, and beautiful roads for bike racing. What a great race we have had this afternoon. Great win for the minnows, but Timothy DuPont, well, he's no minnow really, is he? He's a man with an established pedigree in bike racing, and he's further added to that palmarès with a beautiful victory in Nokere Koerse for 2016, the 71st edition. And it's another Belgian that goes on the list. Only 6 times in the history of this race has it been won by someone other than a rider from Belgium or the Netherlands. And indeed, there weren't that many Dutch winners either. It's very much a Belgians classic. And they'll be satisfied, I think, and content with how things worked out today.
Timothy DuPont, deze, daar heb je lang op gewacht, hè?
Ja, zeker. Ik ben al heel het voorjaar echt goed. En ja, vorige week won ik nog in Echtegem. En dan als je vandaag Nokere Koers kunt winnen, is dat toch wel gewoon weg de max.
Ik zag jouw ploeg heel goed werken op 3 kilometer van de streep. Dus om jou in goede positie te krijgen, dat is gelukt.
Ja, zeker. Maar uiteindelijk was het de bedoeling dat ik voor Aidis aantrok. En blijkbaar is hij de laatste 500 meter mijn wiel kwijtspeeld. En ja, ik riep constant Aidis, maar ik hoorde niemand. En ben dan van ver eigenlijk aangegaan. En ja, op de juiste moment eruit gekomen en nog stand kunnen houden op de opkomende mannen.
Straf, en dat is ook de reden waarom je net op het einde een beetje stil viel, omdat je precies die sport aantrok voor het.
So Timothy DuPont just telling us that we had a great team today and we brought so many riders into the final kilometers.
En ja, met zo'n ploeg voor je is dat natuurlijk wel super. Maar ik zeg het nog eens, de bedoeling was eigenlijk echt voor Aidis aan te trekken.
And the team we also have Aidis Kropis, who also could have won.
En ja, uiteindelijk win ik dat zelf, is dat nog, is eigenlijk wel ook mooi.
And as you might expect, giving credit to his team.
Je moet precies weten waar je moet aangaan. Als je dat niet doet, heb je altijd prijs of ben je geklopt.
Ja, tuurlijk. Het is gewoon in de afzink moet je daar al zeker van voor zitten. En dat was gewoon, de ploeg race zodanig hard. En die mannen van Bora waren ook echt hard aan het rijden. En als je dan daar dan perfect geplaatst zit, moet je echt...
Well, this victory will certainly help the team
dat je op tijd eruit komt.
for the coming season.
Ja, als het te laat komt, zit je meestal ingesloten.
It'll give us a lot of confidence.
Nog één vraagje. Met welke versnelling spurt je nu die Nokereberg op in die sprint? Met welke versnelling spurt je die berg op in de sprint?
Ik heb het niet bekeken, maar ik weet dat ik op 100 meter van de meet nog een tandje lichter geschakeld heb, omdat ik voelde dat ik te zwaar zat. En ja, ik heb dan gewoon vol blijven sprinten en ik zag nog iemand komen. Ik heb dan gewoon de jump van mijn leven gedaan.
Dank u wel.
Well, no doubt about it. He's a very happy man. Pays tribute to his teammates, and why wouldn't he? That was such an impressive performance throughout. And for Verandas Willems, that really will mean an awful lot. And things going very well indeed for Timothy DuPont at the moment. That's his second victory in a match.
Het is de bedoeling om de sprint aan te trekken voor Kroopis, zegt hij. Maar we hebben natuurlijk zeer veel wielrennen de komende dagen opnieuw op Eurosport. Vrijdag zijn we er met Hans Samen